and welcome a new face to our lovely development update. We have Colby. How are you doing,
Hello.
Colby?
Welcome, Colby.
I'm doing really well. Yeah, excited to be on the.
This is a different
live stream.
structure.
Yeah,
I know this is the
introduce you
first time. This is the first time we've ever actually had an in-depth focus on UI in the game, and I think it's going to be a pretty interesting topic. A lot of people are going to get some insight.
Yeah.
Well, Colby,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, let's see. Where to start? I guess I've been a gamer for my entire life, as long as I've known.
What was the
and-
first game that you remember playing?
He came out of the womb with a Atari.
Yeah. Let's see. NES, playing some Mario.
All
Yeah.
Nice.
right.
Dying a lot. But yeah, so been a gamer my whole life. Got into gaming after going to school for 3D art and being a concept artist, and then eventually found my way into UI, and I've been doing that for 7 or 8 years now. So yeah.
Nice.
Awesome. When it comes to UI, what's like your favorite part about it? Like what kind of inspires you?
Yeah, it's kind of a mixture
It's
of
like
things.
World of
I mean,
Warcraft.
I love being able to use all my artistic skills that
That's what he
I've
says.
built up over the years, but then it's kind of a cool logical puzzle, right? We're like looking into how people react psychologically to
Yeah.
different
like the
information.
behavioral element of design. That always intrigues me too. There's a lot of that when it comes to communications as well, which is like, a lot of behavioral stuff. Whenever you're creating UI, it's not just you. You've got some homies as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about your team? I know that was something you really wanted to do. Be careful. Once you start naming names like Steven does, you got to name everything.
Gotta get all of them. Yeah. No, we've been super fortunate here. I came in and joined the team about a year ago, and was joining the team with Grat and Tim, who are two of our UI engineers.
Yeah.
And then we grew the team pretty quickly on the UI art and design side. So we've got Jeff, we've got Natalie, and we have Drew, who are all helping make this all happen. So everything you'll see is going to be.
Yeah, you guys have built actually a great team. And, for the longest time, many of you guys out in the audience will know, as watching the project over time, that there hasn't been much love given to the UI front over the years. But you probably now have seen, especially with our last stream, a little bit of the peek under the hood for what's been going on with the UI team. And they have been doing an absolutely stellar job. I think we have found the magic in this team. So very excited for what you're going to show today, Colby, and the progress that everyone on your team has made for the game. I mean,
I can't wait.
Looks great.
I can't wait.
Yeah, we always
Yeah,
start with a lot of programmer UI, and then it comes into the beautification happens, and we're now there.
Yeah, because before you get to the point where you are really understanding and cognizant of the nitty-gritty details that a particular system might have, some of that UI work can be wasted when it gets reauthored or it gets refactored, right? And now we're at a place where a lot of these GDDs and these systems are stood up and ready to kind of have complementary UI associated with it. And that's what I think are really excited about, seeing that come to life, seeing the style of it, seeing everything you guys are doing. It looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a great transition into
Let's see
the
it.
style element
Let's
of
see
it
it.
before we even get too crazy into showing you like the end goal.
There is no release date yet.
There's a lot of elements that are the steps prior to that. So I don't know if you want to first kind of walk us through what goes into creating like a style guide for you.
They're doing a lot of intro right now.
And if you want me to bring up anything on the screen, just let me know as well.
Yeah, I mean,
2040.
there's a lot of work that goes into building UI. It's not just, coming up with a bunch of things and throwing it onto screens. And, we put a lot of thought into this, and we wanted to take our time to build a real good style guide so we can, make sure our windows are consistent. And, we can start showing some of the stuff. We can show you guys the process we went through. So,
Yeah.
Let's see it.
So we'll first bring.
Now, you guys are going to be seeing, and Colby, if you want to talk just a little bit about, because a lot of people probably aren't accustomed to that modular approach and how you kind of define these borders and whatnot. Give them a little bit of context to what they're about to see. They're going to see some of these elements and be like, what is this?
Yeah, I guess we'll show you a lot of little pieces that are going to be part of a bigger picture eventually. So we really start with like shape language and all these little components.
Oh, wow.
And, we start designing
I like
out
these
what
borders.
What are the motifs?
These are
like,
sick.
simple the graphic elements that'll help sell what is the Ashes of Creation UI? What is it all going to look like?
Yeah, that's cool.
And so we start with a lot of explorations. Like this is just a small chunk of what we've worked through. And we're using those to start building up and make what, a cohesive style that you'll see. So like these will be like the corners of your window frames. And these will be what determines what the line breaks look like. And I know it's all very subtle and a lot of people may not notice it all the time in games, but we wanted to get a really nice, subtle, but still fantasy style going through here.
Right, and there's a lot of different directions that UI can take. I mean, many of us who have played a lot of games can see the spectrum from really bulky, invasive, heavy kind of elements that you're accustomed to from the late 90s to the early 2000s, and where the direction's gone for UI a little bit with more modern games and more minimalistic approach. Talk to us a little bit about kind of the differences in those philosophies.
Yeah, totally. And it's definitely a flavor approach, right? So people choose between one of those things. And so one of the first things we always do is we gather tons of reference. And so we're all sitting down in a room and we're saying, oh, what do we see as the Ashes of Creation UI? And we, start picking from these different, more complex and artistic, or more subtle and minimalistic, or a balance of the mix.
Right.
I hope they show it.
And I remember some of the first conversations that you and I had with the broader team is with those reference boards, kind of dialing in what that visual, looks like for Ashes of Creation. And we saw modern takes on it. We saw older takes on it, traditional takes on it, bulkier takes on it, and even the filigree down to the very minute details of these borders and these corners. Like there's just so many examples that live there. And you guys did a great job kind of condensing that feedback down into a very cohesive approach for the style. Talk to us about a little bit about how you utilize these corners and edges to kind of populate in a more modular fashion the broader design of the UI.
Yeah, so a big portion of what we do is kind of creating this toolkit, basically. So rather than having every time you go to a screen, we have something new, it's here are all of these different things that we'll use to build a set of windows that are all going to look like they're built the same way. They're going to have a similar theme throughout. And we build in Engine, we'll build a bunch of these things as components. So when we go and the first screens we built always take the longest, because it's going to be, we're building all the little parts that we put in. And then once we do a button, it's oh, hey, here's the button. And then we'll keep populating those buttons throughout. And then we're trying to build as smart as possible because we have a pretty big game ahead of us. Yes. And so everything we're doing is built modular so that we can update in one place and it'll go throughout the whole game. So if we decide, hey, we want our buttons to be
those buttons are 10%
sick, brighter, here you go. It's quick.
Yeah.
I like those.
Absolutely.
Oh, there it is.
As you showing some of these along the way. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Oh, yeah, no, it's okay. As you can see on screen, I mean, there were a ton of different explorations that we went through here that, we started with that really rough just shape exploration, and we picked our favorites from it after we kind of had settled on a more, smaller, narrow set of styles. And then we just explored, what does that look like on a screen? What does it look like,
it looks better than New World.
And line elements and breaks. And then you can see we start putting them into
New World didn't have that bad of a UI, but I like this one.
Feedback. And that this process takes a while, but it's totally worth it in the end. So we have a really good foundation to keep moving forward from.
I think the next group you had here was the inventory process. And this is kind of showing the process, the walkthrough of when you first are designing stuff into what it looks like once it's in game, correct? And so we'll start with the gray box, if you want to talk a little bit about how that works.
Rico, you can zoom in.
So this is giving people a little bit of insight on how we approach different screens. So the whole UI process usually starts with something like this, which is called UX, so user experience focused design. And so what we're doing is these are just a couple of small mocks based, the document for the inventory is actually probably 4 or 5 pages long, and it goes over all the little details of how you interact with things.
And so actually,
As a
that's a
user,
good
I
part
would
of
like
the.
to be able to click an icon and drag it from one box to another. Like it's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of those little things that designers
Right.
are designing.
And that's actually a good point to bring up as part of that initial ideation or that pipeline flow. You're reviewing these GDDs and understanding kind of what are the system requirements that you, from a UX perspective, have to incorporate as part of these wireframes or as part of these mocks.
Yeah, so we work with designers constantly here. We're talking with them about how to make their designs more user friendly and how to, accommodate what we want to make and make it the best version of it. So we work back and forth. We'll create these gray boxes, which can go over, like Margaret said, literally, like what does it look like when you're dragging an item, and it goes over all these little interactions because we'll build these things and then we'll pass them off to engineers who will hook it all up and make all the functions work. And those guys are, trying to get every little detail working just right so it plays really great. And the next step after the gray box is like approved, we go to an art mock. And so we take that style, and if there's anything new, we start applying those things and showing
what's
what
the Ashes of Creation icon? 1200? What is that?
In that nature.
And when
There's
you're
gold.
talking about filters, can you go a little into more detail regarding what that is?
Gold, silver, and
yeah. So this one specifically is just like the filters on the backpack. So if we want to be able to search for just equipment, we can click equipment and it'll, we're going to show, hey, like when we do that, we're going to fade out the icon so that you can see just the equipment. But we don't want to reorganize your whole inventory because we know how players are about their inventory storage.
I'm very organized. I like my stuff. I'm kind of OCD about it.
Me too.
I'm as organized as the button that auto sorts my inventory.
Yeah. Colby and I have like a love for organization. I know whenever we're writing documents and stuff. And then oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah, and this gets put straight into the game. So kind of like what you've seen with our concepts to 3D, we're kind of a little bit more of a kind of not siloed, but we have a little small team that builds this stuff all together. And we work with the designers, we work with engineers.
You're a service-oriented team, really. These requests can come in from engineering, from design, from art or whatever. And your guys' job is to kind of like understand where the request needs to service and deliver kind of that those elements to those teams.
Yeah, and we're the support team. We come in and we help make the design come to life and be playable and interactable. And then we get a lot of feedback. And we build these things to be easy to change and work. Like that's why we work so modular, is because if something, we play it and we're like, oh, that's not quite right, we can go and tune that and move it back and get it working just right. And so that's showing here the concept coming right into the game, and we have a whole toolkit that lets us build these windows a lot faster now that we've assembled that.
Yeah.
And a lot of players. Oh, no, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and obviously we're just showing the inventory, but we do this with like every piece of UI that we're going forward with. And there's a lot of back and forth. And, obviously when we're creating these things, we're also keeping in mind a lot of the customization that you guys want as well. So, there's there may be options in the future where you can change different colors. And so those automatically adjust to everything for those specific elements and things of that sort, especially for colorblind folks. We know that that's something that we want to support.
Rock and stone.
And I was just going to talk a little. That was what I was going to comment on was, Colby, share with our audience, I think, kind of your philosophy when it comes to customizing and options. As a player, obviously, I know you have your own desires when you play these games. Tell us how we're going to be doing things differently in Ashes.
Yeah, we're going to have basically everything in the game will be customizable as much as we can support. So all of our windows will be scalable. All of our UI, we have a bunch of scaling options already exposed at this point in the game. And moving forward, we've already been working on a HUD editor. You'll be able to uniquely scale all of your different HUD elements and potentially choose for different styles of those elements. It's going to be as much customization as we can fit in there, which we know how much. For
streamers too, because like a lot of streamers have specific UI colors, or they want like their camera to be in a certain spot, so you can like move stuff around the way that you kind of like it to be.
They also mentioned in chat like FF14 customization.
Like I like my stuff kind of like in a specific space, and I know that other people do not. And some people who just have it all there, I'm like, it's so much stuff.
And it's not even that each player plays differently. It's almost even role dependent. When I'm playing a cleric, the positioning of
able to move around the nameplates
of my nameplate for my targeting plate is very different than if I'm playing a DPS, right? Like I want that front and center. I want to see the party list in the middle of my screen and have the target living in the center as well. But I don't necessarily want that when I'm playing a different role. And so I think having that, as you mentioned, the customization options to kind of resize, but not just resize, place in different locations and associate different connections and having them hook into the side. And, there's just a lot of ideas that we've discussed a lot with the UI team as a whole of where's been our greatest pain point as players and how can we address those in the designs that we're going to be emphasizing with our UI?
Yeah, I see that kind of conversation happening more than just with UI. I see that happening with when we're talking about web, when we're talking about design of any
Colby's
sort.
favorite thing is to see a designer in their GDD try to mock up the UX and UI.
I live for those. Yeah,
I'm always ashamed when I'm making graphic stuff because Colby and Mike are just amazing. And I'm like, oh, look at my stuff.
Oh, we have a full team of people. They're great at that. They do amazing work. So
but obviously the desire there for a designer incorporating that as part of their GDD is they're trying to communicate to Colby and the team what are they trying to get out of a particular system with UI, right? And that's always a great informational piece, but it's you get a kick out of it.
Having an
sometimes.
editable UI though is going to be
strengths of our team too.
100%
is people just
needed.
know games, right? We have a bunch of, we're not just developers, we're all gamers. So everybody comes together and they're like, oh, well, in this game it worked like this, and they can give us a great lead on, oh, you want the design to kind of fit this world. Okay, cool. And so
I know that people are going to ask this specifically because of what you brought up, Stephen, in regards to, different roles. You want different types of UI layouts. Will people be able to save a layout and be able to
WoW has that now. They have to do that
what
now.
role they're playing.
WoW has we've discussed that in the past. That's absolutely a desire. Is that as you're oh, sorry, go ahead, Colby. You comment.
Oh, it's okay. No, we one of the first things we did when we were starting to kind of block in the very base features of our HUD editor was talking about saving and loading profiles. We're going to have options for hey, when I'm in a raid, automatically change my UI to this.
Raid UI.
Yeah, when I'm in a party, I can change my UI to a specific
thing. Automatically
changes. It really will lend
That'd
itself to customizing your experience. And we want to have really our kind of mantra is really solid defaults, so most people won't need to touch anything. But then the customization for everybody who wants to.
Yeah, and that's always it's funny when we kind of have points of maybe contention or subjective kind of differences that we as players talk about. Oftentimes it lives in the I know, absolutely there are. But it lives in the realm between, well, what's default, and then how are we giving the players the option to change that, right? And that, I think, is really the key in providing those things.
I think they would just need to have a toggle.
Our objective,
you could
of course,
choose
on the default side is to make it
toggle
most
that on or off.
applicable to a broad audience, but give the flexibility that you can do whatever you want based on the many years you've been playing games and develop your own idiosyncrasies or habits that you prefer.
Yeah, I'm a weird player who plays with, I know a lot of people do WASDA. I'm like RDFG because I like having more keys around my hand to be able to hit buttons.
Really?
Versus
RDF.
not. So I know, and I know some people
does
are like, that's so weird. I don't know how you could do that. But it's just when you train yourself for 20 years, you get used to it. But it's not for everyone.
I'm super weird as well. I use
RDFG?
I really only on my left hand use the hotkeys between tilde and 5, and then I use a function to do the later hotkeys in the hotbar for me.
I do
so
too. I use
control
1, control
yes,
Alt 1.
Exactly.
Yeah. I want everything to be easy to access. I don't want to have to stretch my hand across the keyboard.
There's no button past 6.
But I know, and then there's some people who just like clicking stuff, which I know some people hate.
RDFG.
But it is very interesting to see how different people play.
It's fun.
And there's a right way and a wrong way.
Why.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
but we do have some more stuff to go through, so I want to kind of get through that. And you had a lot of iconography stuff, so I don't know if you want to preempt this before we head into talking a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, we can just look through these slides. We've done a ton of iconography work, and kind of similarly to what we're going to be
here's all the
doing for
classes.
like a
Here's all
style
the
guide for the
classes.
UI. We're going to be building out style
Archetypes.
guides, small
All the
ones for
archetypes.
each of the types of icons. So these
Tank,
are
bard,
showing
summoner,
like
mage, rogue,
some
ranger,
ideation on the
cleric,
class
and fighter.
iconography, or the icons that go at the edge of the different
I think those are
window
archetypes,
treatments.
but yeah.
Oh yes, sorry, archetypes.
Yeah.
Yes,
There are classes too.
yes. But yeah,
but also that's a good point, actually, bringing up the differences between the archetype and the class.
It's class, and then there's
perhaps an icon can be promoted from its archetype state up to the class state and still salvage that iconography from the base archetype.
True, so you kind of know what your primary archetype is based on like your class.
Right.
I think barbarian would be within
we're trying to get that
the
whole
actual
idea,
class
locked down. So when you can see someone, you can tell what they are and what I'm dealing with here. So
that's the primary purpose, right, of these types of UI elements is communicating that information. I mean, UI's whole purpose is communicating the information to the player, but at a glance with these particular icons, right? And that's the whole, I'm getting an understanding, and I'm familiar with that sword because it's the tank or something.
Yep. Yeah.
Look at all the different archetypes,
it's a fine line
dude.
for UI of like making something very, very like aesthetically pleasing, but also making sure it satisfies that base information it needs to tell me. So here you can see some of our ideation between the ability effects and how we go from quick sketches and moving them forward into ability icons. And we're going to have different like styles for different size of things too. So, ability icons are all going to fall into one style. And then like if we do a class emblem, it'll be more detailed. If we do something really tiny, it's got to be really simple, as you can see with like these ones on the right here. They're just going to be.
Some of them are map oriented, so you have to be able to see them and understand what they are when they're like one by one pixel.
Ranger.
Some of the graphic ones are the hardest ones to do because they're just you have to tell me what that is right there. Yeah. So we've done a lot of great work on these.
Look at all these different
Natalie
icons.
and Jeff have done a ton of awesome explorations on these. Natalie's been doing all the painting for the class abilities you guys have seen in the last live streams, and they've just been fantastic.
Very, very
good. I love the vivid nature of these icons, especially for the ability icons. The strong contrast that exists within the icon itself that lends to that easy communication of the ability recognition is super important.
Dory, we're gonna have to dive into this game, man. We're gonna have to dive
for you guys.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And with that, I think we're going to move into some like actual mocks that are in game, right?
Yo, in game. Let's go.
Not quite in game. Well, some of them may be in game, but yes, these are just going to be the art mocks for what we've built so far. There's some extra ones that are in the works and things that are partial, but these ones are,
So looking nice. Take a look at these. We're going to be talking a little bit about kind of feedback.
These are going to be inspected like crazy.
I know. They're going to zoom in on every little thing. So
and now I would like to preface, though, for those of you who are going to zoom in on every little detail, that as always, this is a work in progress and things are subject to change. Some things are even placeholder in these, so take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, not everything is built 100% accurate to every single system. These are just mocks to get everything.
And especially as people play more of the game, we'll be adjusting things and changing things and seeing what works and what doesn't. So, when Alpha 2 comes around, that's when the feedback is going to be very, very important. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and so this is kind of we wanted to include this, which is showing like all of the different buttons and accordions and filter buttons and drop downs that we use to build all these different screens. So, combined with the style guide that we had before, we're going to use these and we build out all of our screens, which you'll see.
The reason why
here.
They're called accordions is because it like opens up. These are things that like open up and kind of expand. So you can see like more of your quests or more of whatever it is.
And whenever you interface with this particular UI element, it actually plays the audio cue of an accordion in the background.
Oh my God, whatever.
Don't give Kat a heart attack. She's like, what are you getting me into? Also, also like our audio is amazing too.
There's
And
drop downs.
Not only does UI interact with design and engineering, but they're also
Filter
working
states.
with audio and visual effects. Like there's a lot of coordination that has to happen for all those things.
Yep.
Next one here is dialogue, and I think there's a couple dialogue ones, right?
Oh, here it is.
Yeah, we show a couple different steps. So this will be like when you're talking to an NPC, you're going through your potential options of what you can talk about. You could
There's
ask
not much behind my cam right
questions, or
now,
you could
by the
jump
way,
straight
so.
into a quest, hook, whatever it happens to be. So some of our base treatments here, and then this is the quest delivery. So if you're talking to that NPC and they have something for you to start, a task, we'll present this as a, make your choice. Do you want to start this task right now? And give you the details that we have. And some objectives may be hidden, depending on the quest. So.
All right, and then moving into... Oh, go ahead, Stephen.
I was just going to say, it's a lot of... I've seen a lot of interesting iterations for how quest gets delivered. From when I interface with an NPC, I move into this kind of alternate camera mode, and I have the NPC kind of talking to me I have the bar underneath it. But I think that, when you're servicing multiple dialogue trees that have many different options, this approach is really conducive to kind
it's
of
not Mortal Online.
keeping those options front and center to the player, letting them see that, and navigating through the dialogue tree with a very easy to interact with.
WoW's is pretty big, Rico. It can be
quest window.
And we
which I
even
think
did
you
it
guys
that
did a great
other way
job
that you
with this.
mentioned in our previous.
Yes, in Alpha 1.
Yeah.
One of our early iterations for UI as a placeholder was really that long bar at the bottom screen kind of approach. I'm really liking this. It'd be great to get feedback as you guys are kind of watching this. As always, it's very important for you guys to give feedback on what you're seeing. It's I know we'll talk about that at the end, but yeah, I do love these. These look great.
And going into the backpack,
which
people got a little glimpse of some of this when we were showing our live stream last month.
You're probably resize
everything's coming online, becoming a little bit more usable and functional, and our main goal as UI is to get things in game and usable so that we can really test it, because ultimately you can design anything on paper, but really you got to get your hands on it in order to.
Absolutely.
I think we saw a lot of commentary in regards to segmenting the backpack into different, like harvestables and things like that. Not gatherables, I should say, and quest items. People really liked seeing that.
Yeah, I like how they have the different
especially
tabs.
with the way our game's going to work, with the materials being a little bit, of a different interaction.
Treated
so
differently, yeah.
Yeah, and then the quest items is that quality of life, because as MMO players, we all know searching for the one vial that's not the vials of your potions, but it's the quest item.
Absolutely. And it's always great to have in the quest tracker that actually is living on the HUD with you, that accessibility for the item, so you don't have to go digging for an activatable per se.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
We'll be doing that too, supporting.
Has that support right there for you. That's nice.
Yeah.
Or something that you can drag on to your bar easily, things like that.
I just want to be in this world already.
And we've got blacksmithing.
Ooh.
I know that people are going to be very excited to see this.
Oh my god. This is the first look I think we've shown.
First look of blacksmithing. Let's go.
And this is kind of our fast crafting, so not necessarily what we will be.
Zoom.
Goal, right?
Chat's like,
yeah,
Zoom.
Absolutely. Yeah. Talk to us a little bit, Colby, about kind of designing for the kind of crafting needs.
Yeah, we work with designers a lot on these.
It's not even in Alpha 2, Midori. I think he just wants to get such a good
this one
state.
Is showing kind of the base needs that we were establishing to get this system in game and usable as soon as possible. So right now our crafting does work in game, and it's all functional, and we're building out the functionality as we go to, expand and based on what we test. So, and
there's a lot of information you have to communicate via this window. Right. How do you kind of blend between the idea of multiple sub pages that are required to kind of facilitate all the information versus how much you can show on one particular page? Like, talk to us a little bit about that process.
Yeah, and this is where that game of, understanding how to organize the information, right? So we're creating kind of what we like to call like a visual language. So a lot of our panels, you'll see they'll have that left side accordion list, which is like a real, if we have a lot of dense information, we like to use these accordions because you can, have a shorter list and then expand out the parts that you're interested in. And then we kind of do that same thing where it's context. So you start on the left.
They have a fast
and
craft
to the
and
right.
a manual
so you make
craft.
A selection, and then there's like details on the right. And we try to create what we call like visual hierarchy to help you know, like, okay, I've clicked this and now I move over here and I've got buttons over here that are, the only other bright objects on the window. So it pulls me to say like, okay, I can look and see if I can craft this or whatever it happens to be. And there's going to be, some pretty robust systems. So we're really excited to see when we get our hands on it where we can make it better.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is a very important component of the testability. And the primary purpose of Alpha 2, as we've always stated, is going to be to get player feedback.
Ooh, I like
player
this journal. This is sick.
I
like the journal.
Giving us direction on how these things play out. It's such an important part of being a tester. So definitely it's very valued.
Yeah, definitely.
And folks did see the journal a bit last time. I saw a lot of commentary regarding that.
Yeah, a lot of great feedback, positive feedback about the journal, both from color composition to layout design.
Yeah, I like it.
A lot of different things. Colby, talk to us a little bit about kind of how you
30
guys
quests is the max.
This style of introducing such a broad spectrum of colors. I feel like.
Yeah, we actually used the journal as one of our test cases for the style guide because it's a very complex screen. There's a lot of things that are going on where we have different tiers of story arcs that might be available for players. And so we wanted to make sure the color denoted different information for them. We also have iconography to support that as well. And we kind of have a little bit of a twist on what a traditional quest system would be like. So with these story arcs, we wanted to make sure that it was organized in a familiar way, but also something that supported all of the design's needs.
Yeah, the coloring is really good.
We really like how it came out.
Yeah, and we have a little bit more in-depth / complicated story arc system than you might find in most of your traditional MMORPGs.
Stubble Boy just put in the comments,
story arcs
WoW
can be
killer
updated in real time, and kind of how players interface with different segments of that story arc. So, this journal has to facilitate all of those designs, which can make it, as you said, one of the most complicated probably windows that we utilize for characters outside of probably the mayoral interface. But
that's just going to spark more questions about what do you mean? How's the questing going to go? But perhaps that's going to be a future thing. We definitely need to have some more of our narrative folks on sometime and talk a little bit about that.
Well, I think Carfin might be a great opportunity.
Call me out.
Yeah, that's true. And, if you did watch our extra live stream, you got a little teaser of some lore there. And then next up, and we're also later in this live stream, we're going to be showcasing some teasers as well.
Of next month's live stream.
And then we've got
teasers.
Options, which, for most of us, it's one of the first things that we experience in game. We're like, let me adjust all the things to be the way that I like them. Like I want the FOV to be where I want. I want the audio to be where I want. And this requires even more elements for you guys to interact with and adjust. I'm sure that this was probably even more complicated to put together.
Yeah, well, and this is where that, like, having a really strong visual language and kind of making that information really accessible and organized in a good way was really just very important to us. So one of the other screens that we hit first, not exactly the thing everybody's like, ooh, let me see the options, but very important when we do get them out there in your hands. So
I think people will be happy because last in Alpha 1 we had like one slider.
One slider.
And they were like, we were constantly getting folks asking for more options.
There will be a few more sliders.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised. I don't find myself as a player interfacing with the options menu in many games very often. I do, like you said, kind of at the start of my gaming experience. Yeah. But when I'm in the middle of a game and there's some option that I've newly discovered that I was like, oh God, I need to change this and I need to change it fast. And I open that options menu and it is just an absolute cluster. I'm like, oh, this is terrible. I need to now spend so much time here. So easy, intuitive navigation is definitely an important aspect of the options menu for sure.
Respect. I'm glad they have all these. I mean, a lot of games have this anyways. You got to
Yes.
Got to have it. It's like an
Definitely
industry standard
tell us
at this
your
point.
thoughts on that, or what options you like. Obviously, this doesn't have everything in there, but it's giving you kind of a glimpse into the future. And our character screen, which we have shown
Look at that.
various different versions of
That's
this
pretty
throughout
sick.
The lifespan of Ashes of Creation.
I know.
It's gone through many iterations, and I know there's been a couple that people haven't liked, a few that people have liked. I know that there's always a lot that you have to display here, and so I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that, Colby.
Yeah, we were building this out and we wanted to kind of create something that would handle a couple of different roles with
Level
obviously
10.
your equipment slots for what we call a paper doll, which is that display of your character.
That's the
Eventually
VEC.
it won't just
That's
be
the
a
VEC, Midori.
image of your character. We hope to have the 3D character and be able to rotate around, look at what you're wearing. And then we wanted to support a couple of different features here with some base stats, the equipment, which will show what equipment you have available to quick swap so you don't have to have your inventory and the screen open. Detailed stats for those people who want to get into all of the details. And then, of course, gear sets. So this is going to be able to, swap your sets of gear
sets, and then you have your regular
save different loadouts. And,
that's sick.
We know all the
almost kind of want them to have a recommended button,
and
just like
who have hundreds of sets,
FF14.
So.
And that recommended
costumes too,
recommended gear would be dope.
Of course.
Of course.
Yeah. Right. So this has been a lot of the stuff that we've worked on over the past, year. We've built out the style guide while supporting all of these live streams, and it's just been, awesome to see this team get up and running in such a short time and get a ton of work in.
Yeah, and you have definitely been supporting a lot of teams. I know a lot of the things that we're showcasing each month, you guys have some semblance of little bits and pieces that you're kind of showcasing in there. So, like Steven said, this is
right, Midori. I will.
Just focusing.
Costumes take my money.
Is kind of exciting.
And Colby, talk to us a little bit about kind of the types of feedback you like to see from a demonstration like this of the UI.
Yeah, I mean, just general people's feeling of these things. The best feedback will of course be when you guys are able to get your hands on it. But if you guys have real strong opinions on, hey, I want to see these kind of things in my journal, and
or
we've got
from UI.
Yeah, we have a lot of, features planned, and we have a lot of good, options available. And there's going to be things that you haven't seen, like maybe your journal ties into an archive that has a little bit more of that lore background in it, and it keeps track of what maybe stories you've participated in. So we've really, we're building this out. Oh, sorry.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
But yeah, we're just building this out, part by part, and we're going to be supporting the team. So if you guys see stuff that you really like, make sure to throw a thumbs up out there, make a post or comments. Because we do read all of this stuff, and we try to make sure that we're, seeing the feedback people are giving.
Absolutely. Especially.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
We'll be putting up a thread. It'll probably be up right now. Right meow.
Right meow.
Over on our forums, forums.ashesofcreation.com.
Right meow.
Check it out over there. Definitely leave us some thoughts on our UI. We'll have a few questions that are good starters for you. But definitely tell us what you'd like to see, some features that you'd like to see, what features you liked from the displays that we showed today. And we will be creating a report for the UI team and providing that. Roshan and Vacner are always so great about putting those together, and they're super in depth. They read through everything, which makes it very easy for the design team and development team to be able to quickly read through those and get a good overview of kind of your guys' thoughts and feelings and suggestions. You guys always have some great ideas as well.
And always make sure to incorporate as part of your feedback, the examples and inspiration for you.
I still kind of wish that they showed this in game.
Well, from
that would have been
what
so much more dope.
About a game
either way,
you think had great UI. What was it about that game that you felt was great with regards to their UI? And what were some examples of games that had bad UI, and why did you feel that it had bad UI? Those are great cornerstone touch points on how to give good feedback. Is always using those references, right? Because it's there that we can find better detail-oriented kind of inspection. So yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
Give us your feedback.
And with that, I do want to give you a chance, Colby, to kind of do a little plug. I know you have one, of course, and then anything else you want to say at the end of here before we head on over to our character.
What is he plugging?
Yeah. So, well, our UI team has grown quickly over the past year, but we are looking for one more UI artist or UX designer. We're looking for someone to help join the team and kind of build this out with us. So if you guys are, if you have some experience, please, send us your resume and apply.
Get out there and help us raise awareness.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I just want to give thanks to our team because our team is awesome. We work really hard and we have a really nice, diverse set of people who are able to accomplish all of these different tasks while we're able to, help this game come to life. So we're just very fortunate. We got a great team over here.
All right. Well, definitely head on over intrepidstudios.com/careers.
That was pretty cool.
If you are interested.
Overall, the UI looks amazing. Can't wait to
along that position. We'd love to fill it.
From the backpack to the character,
to join our Intrepid family,
to everything, man.
And with that, we're going to say thank you, Colby. We're going to head on over to our next segment, which is
I think that's a 10 out of 10.
So we will
personally for the UI.
Bye, Colby.
I'm not always I haven't always really been a UI guy, but dude, hell yeah.
Welcome back.
Hell yeah.